Hey guitar friends, in this lesson from Bar Chord Workshop, we look at how memorizing chord diagrams becomes less and less useful as you develop your rhythm guitar skills. Before we start, let me remind you that in order to place bar chords effectively on the fretboard, you will need to know the notes on strings 6 and 5. So if you need a fun and effective system to learn the notes, get my free mini course called Fretboard Memorization Toolbox. So let's get started. As we learn more and more chord types in this course, some of you are looking for PDFs with chord diagrams to print out. Well, I didn't make any on purpose. You see, as a teacher for about 19 years now, I have seen that diagrams are great for quick reference. They are an easy way to show something to another guitar player. They are a shortcut. But as you make progress as a guitar player, if you keep relying on this shortcut, you're going to get stuck. Unless you have photographic memory, it's impossible to memorize hundreds of scale positions and chords without understanding them first. And even the select few that have the willpower to brute force their way through learning a lot of them, this is still mindless memorization without much understanding. So when you keep printing these diagrams or buying these little chord encyclopedia books, most of the time these chords stay on paper, never to be learned. But if you target understanding the construction of scales and chords, everything changes. First of all, things get interesting because you're learning about the sound and how the notes are affecting each other. This is music and you love it, whereas memorizing little circles over lines is just plain boring. But what's more interesting is that you end up knowing all those shapes. But knowing the shapes comes as a natural result of understanding the structure, and it never feels like memorizing. If you're familiar with my methods, you know that we do this for scales using SFS. We end up covering all of the scale boxes, but we never feel that we are memorizing them. Well, in this course, we'll be doing something similar with chords. Instead of having you memorize a bunch of boxes, you will automatically know them through understanding. You have already seen an example of this when we isolated the third degree in major and minor. These two chord types are related. We just moved that third degree and heard how it affected the sound. And because that information was musically interesting, you remember it. Well, let me give you another example. In a later lesson, we'll talk about the suspended fourth. That's a note that replaces that third in both major and minor with the next scale degree. So instead of memorizing a separate new abstract chord shape, you now have some understanding that your mind can hook to and produce the shape in relation to the chords you already know. So you know that we are moving that third degree up to the fourth. You just understand that the suspended fourth sits next to that third, and you don't feel that you just memorized another meaningless box. This was just a single example, and we'll have a dedicated lesson on sus4 later. But we can do the same thing and relate all chord types. The seventh degree, the ninth degree, and any color we want to add can be related to the basic chords. So instead of memorizing all of the resulting chord shapes, you relate them to the things you have already learned. A great benefit of thinking like this is that you can never confuse them or mix them up, because that wouldn't make sense. Dry memorization, on the other hand, is very prone to confusion. You might just recall the wrong box, and if you play the wrong chord type in a song, for example, a major 9 instead of a dominant 9, then you're going to mess everything up. Anyway, we'll get into this in the following lessons. I just wanted to share the good news that you don't need to keep trying to memorize 100 chord shapes. You will end up playing them, but you'll get there through a more fun and effective approach. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next lesson. Hey friends, this was an excerpt from one of my courses called Bar Chord Workshop. In this course, we don't just memorize chord shapes. We use an effective system to explore interesting and fun things about chords like major, minor, dominant 7, minor 7, add 9, minor 9, sus4, and many more, so that you can handle any song in any key. Now, nothing compares to having a plan and building your skills up step by step. So check out Bar Chord Workshop, and don't forget to get my free mini course called Fretboard Memorization Toolbox and start learning the fretboard now. This is Prokopis from String Systems reminding you to enjoy your practice and be effective.